Hello everyone and welcome to Fifth North. I'm Demir and today I'm back on the Triumph Rocket 3R. Alright, so I've had the 2023 Triumph Rocket 3R for a good while now and I managed to put just over 250 miles on it. If I had to guess, this is probably about the halfway point of my time with the bike before I have to return it. So let's do a quick recap on the last 250 miles. By the way, I will do another one of these videos right before I return the bike to Triumph, so if in the meantime you have any questions for me about the Rocket 3, be sure to drop them in the comments below and I will try to do my best to answer them in that video. Okay, so let's start with my initial thoughts. When I first saw this bike, I honestly didn't get it. I mean, it's big, over the top in just about every way, and I mean, come on, it's not really a motorcycle. It's more of a car engine on two wheels. Everything about it just seemed completely unnecessary and completely exaggerated. So when I first took possession of the bike, I was asked by a few friends if I thought that I would want to buy one after riding it. And my honest response before my first ride was, no, not really. It's just not my style. I ride naked bikes, sport bikes, quick, light, nimble. And this thing compared to my usual bikes is massive and just, again, not really my style. I wanted to check it out really for curiosity's sake, but in all honesty, I had no interest in the Rocket 3 from an ownership standpoint. To me, the Rocket 3 in both the R and GT variants was basically a cool attraction. It was that thing that no one really needs or will actually ever use, but it was a cool what if, a cool design exercise. Basically, it's just used to lure people to the brand with its crazy specs. But then eventually the customer would go, okay, this is cool. And then they would just end up buying a more normal Triumph, right? Or so I thought. The truth is, after having put roughly 250 miles on the 2023 example, again, this Rocket 3R, it has really surprised me. So first of all, it's just downright fun. I mean, the engine is simply amazing. It sounds good, even in stock form, which most bikes don't sound good with a stock exhaust. Honestly, I can only imagine how amazing this engine sounds with a good exhaust system. Second, it just has grunt at all times. So let's talk about a few bikes that make more power. I mean, basically name any liter sport bike and it probably makes the same or more power. Most liter bikes will get close to that 200 horsepower range, right? For most of those bikes though, you have to rev the bike to the moon just to get to that top end, and until you do, they're honestly pretty weak. I mean, most bikes that check that more power box, they have absolutely no torque. All the power requires you to ride like a maniac, and that's just not the case here. I mean, I feel like with the Rocket 3, if I open the throttle in any gear, if I'm anywhere from 2.5 to 6,000 revs, I have all the power and all the go that I need. The Rocket 3 makes so much torque. I mean, basically I have the same amount of torque that I do horsepower, and it just goes. I mean, as soon as you tell it to, it goes. And honestly, all that power all the time feeling is quite addicting. I start riding in the city or, traffic situations just to give myself an excuse to keep experiencing acceleration, right? That's probably why I'm getting such bad gas mileage, because I'm just constantly ripping on the throttle when I'm doing stop and go traffic. All right, so the power is great, and you would think with a 2.5 liter 3-cylinder it better be, right? So that part's good. But then my next fear with the Rocket 3 was that it was going to be a boat. Just big, heavy, and hard to maneuver. But let's check in with some reality here, right? Yes, compared to my normal bikes that I ride, my last bike that I owned, a Vitpillen 401, which is tiny and super nimble in comparison, the Rocket 3 is big, heavy, and it doesn't handle as well. But, and this is a big but, it really surprised me. It honestly handles really well for how big of a bike it is. And, a lot of that comes from the way the engine is mounted. It's kind of mounted in a way to give it a really low center of gravity, and I have to say, I was definitely caught off guard by how well the Rocket 3 maneuvered once I got used to it, to the point where initially I expected it to handle like a cruiser, but in reality it doesn't. Lastly, the Rocket 3 really won me over with some of its features and overall fit and finish. If you haven't already checked it out, see my video on the 10 cool features of the Rocket 3. I'll link it up top, and here in the next few weeks I'll also do a video on my top 5 favorite things that I like about the Rocket 3, but just know that overall, the quality of this bike really won me over. Honestly, I can really see where the $25,000 or so went into this bike, and I don't feel like it's overpriced for all the little details that are included. And with that said, I would say that the Rocket 3 really isn't a beginner bike. In my opinion, it is too expensive and too powerful to learn on. With this much torque, you can really have the bike get sideways on you if you don't know what you're doing. That in itself is a different feeling, as most bikes, you have to watch out for it to not pop up on you and buck you backwards as it's trying to do a wheelie. With the Rocket, you can have that happen, or you can have the bike kick the back end out around you from the extra torque. So kind of like a pick your poison situation, right? So yeah, I would definitely not recommend it as a first bike, but still, with that said, the Rocket isn't always a complete maniac either. When I had it in rain mode and wasn't really ripping on it, it was completely happy to just cruise around comfortably. So it definitely has its calmer side if you want it to. Alright, so as I mentioned, the power is great, the handling is surprisingly good. I feel like the suspension is just right for this bike. The brakes are solid. I do think the rear is just slightly underpowered, but when you combine the front and rear overall, the brakes are great. The tires and the tire size really complement the bike well, and it doesn't hinder performance, even the tire choice. I know on some bikes, the tire and the tire size can really ruin a bike, and that's definitely not the case here. Overall, to recap, after 250 miles of riding the Rocket 3R, I still think it's ridiculous. It's completely over the top, completely unnecessary, and I absolutely love it. This thing is just fantastic. And as Jeremy Clarkson used to say, and on that bombshell, it's time to end. If you like this video, you know what to do. Hit that like button for me. I would also really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button as well if you're not already subscribed, and if you are, thank you, as it does really help my channel out quite a bit. And with that being said, I'm going to go put some more miles on the Rocket, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.